Views and opinions expressed on the following program are those of the hosts and guests, and not necessarily those of the staff or management of alltalkradio.net.
The following program may contain language of an adult nature. Listener discretion is advised.
Guys, welcome back. I am your host, Dante, and welcome to the Dante's Boxing Nation show. Shouts out to BoxingTalk.com, Box Fan Expo, and we're going to go ahead and get it in. But before I go ahead and talk, let me go ahead and introduce all my special guests. We do have Mr. A.K.A. Rap King is on the line with us, and we also have my man Eagles World. Welcome to the show, guys. Now, let me go ahead and give shouts out to my little sponsors. I want to say shouts out to Box Fan Expo one more time. This is going to be the very first ever Box Fan Expo, September 13th. All the fighters are going to be there. Mike Tyson, Sean Porter, Mikey Garcia, Robert Garcia, Brandon Rios. Everyone is basically going to be there on the weekend of the Floyd Mayweather versus Marcos Maidana rematch. Now, if you guys want to get tickets, I'll have the link in my description box, and you could go ahead and purchase tickets for that event. Okay, that'll be like our first all-star boxing weekend with the Floyd Mayweather fight and with the Box Fan Expo. Also, I want to give shouts out to my man Carlos Ramirez on Twitter. If you guys are interested in getting free posters, free boxing posters, he's giving free ones out. All you have to do is go ahead and follow him on Twitter. And you can also go ahead and follow Arab King on Twitter at Arab Pimp. And Carlos Ramirez's Twitter is CR93. Okay? And we also have my man Eagles World at Instagram. You guys can follow him at Boxing Ego. Okay? So let's get into it, guys. Welcome to the show. All right. So first things first, guys, we had some decent fights this past weekend. Let's go ahead and start with Brian Jennings versus Perez. It was a split decision win for Brian Jennings over Mike Perez. AK, what did you think about that fight?
Yeah, it was a very, very close fight. Perez was winning a lot of the early rounds and the middle rounds, and Jennings came out, late. And I think Perez got gassed out later on the fight. I don't know if it was his conditioning or the body work of Jennings, but he really didn't land a lot of body shots. And I saw a lot of flaws of Jennings. And, it'd be interesting with him and, Wilder fight in the future, because Wilder can't fight inside, but he has way more reach. And Jennings could fight on the inside, but he's not hard of a puncher, but you could say he's the most skilled heavyweight out there, but I don't know how far he will go, because he's going to have a lot of size disadvantage fighting these heavyweights.
Yeah, I hear you. Now, Ego, do you think Brian Jennings was exposed as being overrated, or do you think Mike Perez just came out with a better game plan than Brian Jennings expected?
In my opinion, I think since Mike Perez comes from the Cuban school of boxing, it's just a tricky style. The Cuban fighters in general, like if I were to lump them in together, oftentimes it could be a tricky style to deal with. They're very smart. They know, like, there are moments where Jennings would come on and look good in spots, and then Perez would smother his work or clinch or do whatever he needed to stop Brian Jennings from getting his shine. So I think ultimately, I don't think he was exposed per se. I think it was experience that came into factor in that particular fight, and you could tell who had the more experience in those early goings. But what I did like from Jennings was just his tenacity. He was losing, I think, the first half of the fight pretty handedly. There was a couple rounds, like maybe round 3, I don't remember off the top of my head, where you could have said, okay, this was a Jennings round, but as the fight progressed, I think Jennings picked up the pace, and he has kind of that Tim Bradley desire, that willingness to win, and I think that's what pushed him ahead, and he just seems really competitive. So I think you can definitely work with him. He does need to go back to the drawing board as far as knowing how to deal with the different obstacles and the Cuban style, or guys who are more experienced than him. He's a very athletic dude. He's just a canvas you can work with, and I think he needs to do that.
Go ahead, AK.
Yeah, I won't say he got exposed, because it's really hard to outbox a Cuban. Yeah. And let's not forget, Perez had like 300 amateur fights. But we can't forget that Perez, when he first left Cuba, he used to weigh like 200 pounds, and he gained 40 pounds in 1 year. But at the same time, he still has the skills. And Jennings is just the type of style that gives him problems. But I did notice some mistakes. Like, he stands up too tall sometimes, which he need to bend his knees a little bit to do some body shots in. So he need to work on some things. But it was just a bad performance by him. But I don't think he was exposed.
No, I totally agree. I don't think he was exposed at all. I just asked the question because, of course, fans could be highly critical of people's performances. I don't think he was exposed at all. I agree with Brian Jennings. I actually said in the video that I did that this Mike Perez, he surprised a lot of people. He was a lot better than he looked before. Before, he looked sloppy. He looked like he relied too much on just landing the left hand, and he was getting hit with a lot of consecutive shots prior to this fight. But Adam Booth, his new trainer, which is David Hayes' trainer as well, he actually, sat Mike Perez down, and they looked at Mike Perez's old amateur fights. And he was like, what happened to this Mike Perez, right? So they worked on trying to, resurrect, his style and get that old Mike Perez back. And I think it showed a little bit in that fight. But like you guys said, he just gassed out. But me personally, I still believe that Brian Jennings is the best heavyweight outside of Vladimir Klitschko, and I might as well just throw it out there now, but I'm still leaning towards Brian Jennings if he were to fight against Deontay Wilder. Who are you leaning on when it comes to the best heavyweight, Ego?
Yeah, that's a tough. It's tough because you got a guy in Deontay Wilder, 31 wins, no losses, 31 knockouts, but you could say his opponents have been softer touches, the Audley Harrisons, people who were expected to do great things but never did, you know what I mean? So Deontay Wilder's resume is not impressive. I do give Deontay Wilder tons of credit for being ambitious, and like he made the call-out video where he called up Bermane Stiverne, and it looks like he wants to fight. For whatever reason, he's not getting some of the bigger fights that would catapult him and really re-energize the heavyweight division. If his chin can hold up, I would lean towards, personally, Deontay Wilder, just based on the fact that he has that freakish power and he has that reach and that range. The ultimate deciding factor is going to be what his chin's like, because I've seen amateur videos where he got knocked out by some bum that no one knows about. So it's all a matter of, you can't really train a chin, so it's all a matter of what his chin's like, and if he can keep that distance. But if he can, I think he beats Brian Jennings, but it remains to be seen what Deontay Wilder's chin is really like. Again, as I said earlier, Brian Jennings, one thing I loved is that willingness to win. He wants to win. He has that drive, and, I mean, sometimes that's all it takes. Timothy Bradley, not the biggest puncher, but he has that drive to withstand Ruslan Provodnikov's punches and keep on ticking and muster up enough energy to find a way to win. And I kind of see a bit of that in Brian Jennings. So it's a good fight. I would love it.
Yep. Go ahead, Ake. What do you think, AK?
You're talking about the best heavyweight besides Klitschko, right?
Yeah. Unless you think unless you think someone is better than Klitschko.
Yeah, no. But see, the thing that worries me about Wilder is, like, I've seen him, even when he fight bums, like, when he get hit, he starts swinging very, like, wild. Just like his name, wild as hell.
Yeah.
And that kind of worries me, like, he's in trouble, what's going to happen, how he's going to deal with adversity. And that's why I say it's going to be an interesting fight if Jennings could take it to the inside of Wilder. Because definitely, he cannot outbox him because Wilder has way more reach. Even though Jennings has way more skill, but see, the thing about Jennings, he's going to have a lot of size disadvantage when he fight guys like Fury, Wilder, even the guy, I never seen him fight, but the Chinese fighter, he's like 6'11". I saw on Eagle Word. I never seen him fight. So it's interesting. I can't really say at this point, but I will be leaning to Jennings a little bit because I'm not too high on Wilder. And I'm waiting to see this Chinese fighter.
Yeah. Well, yeah. So you didn't get to watch his fight that he had about 2 weeks ago?
Oh, no, I didn't. Yeah. Was it on show?
I think it was Fox Sports. I think it was Fox Sports. But, I mean, he looked ordinary. He's definitely going to need some work. He's throwing these big shots, but, he's real wide and real long. And, we'll see. We'll see. It's too early to really, gauge how good he'll be in the future. But like I said, but going back to Brian Jennings, I truly believe that he would take away Deontay Wilder's right hand. He's really good at nullifying people's best weapons. He has a really good defense. I think he would smother Deontay Wilder, and I think he would possibly knock him out. But I guess at the same time, we are still kind of overlooking Berman-Stavern because me personally, I think that Berman-Stavern would give Brian Jennings a better fight than Deontay Wilder would. So, it's yet to be seen. We have to still see what's going to happen between Stavern and Wilder. But, we'll see. So, let's go ahead and just move to the main event. So, Mr. Golovkin, the man that Max Kellerman says is the hardcore fans' favorite fighter, right? Forget what we think. He's telling us that he is the fans' favorite fighter. Now, Gennady Golovkin, he got a third-round knockout over Daniel Geale. What did you think about his performance, Ego? Was it impressive or what?
Yeah, I mean, anytime you have a former world champion, unless they're super has-been status, I would say it's impressive if you can win inside of 3 rounds. I think Golovkin was getting hit a lot, and that caught people off guard. Daniel Geale is a tough guy. He showed you that in the Darren Barker fight. Really awkward. It's like he drinks Red Bulls, and then he's real hyper and like he's like radical. Like he doesn't stay in one spot and just real herky-jerky. So I think that ultimately started some problems for Golovkin. It didn't look like he had the firepower. And I told people in my prediction video, I did a prediction for this, and talked about it. I just don't see Daniel Geale beating Triple G based on the fact that he doesn't have the firepower that's going to get Gennady Golovkin, who looks like he has a good chin, to respect him. He's awkward and stuff, so I thought it would last a little bit longer than 3 rounds. So overall, it was an impressive performance. You do see little loopholes that other fighters, like the Andre Wards of the world, or a guy with more power, like if Triple G was like going up in weight and the people could deal with his power better. I see little things that fighters could expose, but I think ultimately to beat Triple G, you have to have good boxing ability, you have to have some respectable power yourself, and just kind of a brain in there. You know what I mean? You're not going to just go in there and like stand toe-to-toe with him like a Sheeta, and at least at 160, and be successful.
Yeah, absolutely. What was your take on the fight, AK?
Yeah, well, I always thought that Geale was, he tailor-made for Golovkin. I mean, he don't bring nothing to the table that will trouble Golovkin. Like, he don't bring power to the table, nor speed, nor like superior skill. So I figured that Golovkin will, be able to take his punch and get him out of there early, and that's what happened. But like I said, it'd be interesting when, like Ego said, once Golovkin moves up the way and fight bigger guys or bigger punchers. It'd be interesting how Golovkin will do. But at 160, I really can't see him losing at that weight division. He has to move up to like 168, for fighters to give him like a serious challenge. I see Andre Ward by the only guy that I'm really short about that he's going to beat Golovkin. But other than that, he looked good. But at the same time, I've seen some flaws too.
Yeah, definitely there were some flaws. Like you said, Geale doesn't really have any power. He doesn't have a whole lot of speed. And I thought if he could trouble Golovkin even a little bit with the head movement, with the foot movement, being able to catch Golovkin with clean shots, while catching him while his hands are down. I think if someone like Geale can do that, you got a lot of fighters who's going to give Golovkin problems. Like you said, mainly Andre Ward. I think Bernard Hopkins would give him a lot of problems. I think Miguel Cotto, not saying Miguel Cotto wins, but I think Miguel Cotto would expose him a lot. Remember, you can expose somebody and still lose. So I think Miguel Cotto would expose him a lot with his inside game. It's weird with Gennady Golovkin because it seems to me like you can probably beat him on the inside, but at the same time you can beat him on the outside. If you get past his power shots, you get close to him and you smother him and you try to back him up, but you have a good defense like a Bernard Hopkins who will be able to smother him, and of course Andre Ward who will be able to smother him as well. These are the type of fighters that would give him problems. So I thought it was a good performance by Golovkin, but he definitely showed that he could be beat. He didn't look unbeatable. He's not the type of fighter like Guillermo Rigo, Floyd Mayweather, or someone like that where you'll say, oh, ain't nobody beating this dude. Ain't nobody beating this dude. And, so I think it's a little premature. I want to ask you, Igor, what did you think about Max Kellerman comparing Golovkin to Joe Louis?
I mean, I think all that's dumb. Like, HBO in general, I have a subscription. Shout out to them. I just think the commentary, they could use some changes. I mean, I definitely wouldn't compare anybody to the legendary fighters. Like, especially like you look at Gennady Golovkin. I think I read somewhere like he has the most middleweight defenses in history or something. But you also have to look at the alphabet belts in boxing. You also have to look at the fact that who the fuck are the people that he's fighting? You know what I'm saying? You're fighting Gabe Rosado. It was supposed to be at a catch weight. Rosado, being tough, said, hey, I don't want to catch weight. And they fought at the true 160. Then he got the break speed off of him. He fought Ashita in Monte Carlo, a guy who's a career 154-pounder with no power, just because he knocked James Kirkland out, who sometimes can be unstable mentally. What are these title defenses? Matthew Macklin. Some of these guys are solid fighters. Daniel Geale, Macklin, they're solid, but I would never consider them world beaters. So, yeah. It's just kind of blasphemous to reference Joe Louis, Rocky Marciano, any of the legends, Ray Robinson, any of them, when you're talking about Triple G, until we see him in there. For whatever reason, he's not getting those elite-level fights, the Miguel Cottos, the guys like Canelo that are really shaping up, the Andre Ward. So until I see him fight that, he has to have his breakout performance. To me, these are good performances, but you have to consider the competition. I'm talking about Mayweather, when Mayweather fought Gennaro, when Mayweather fought Diego Corrales, someone who was supposed to crush him. These are the type of breakout performances I need to see from Triple G. I have thoughts. Like, I think nobody can beat him at middleweight now, but I have to see it. Yeah. So Joe Louis, that's a horrible comparison.
Yeah, that's the reason why they fight, right? So we can see who the best is. So let me ask you this, AK. Now, Max, he also said that this is the hardcore fan's favorite fighter. You're a hardcore fan, AK. Is this your favorite fighter?
Oh, no, definitely not. I like Golovkin. I enjoy watching him, no doubt. But, of course, he's not my favorite fighter. Every fan has a different favorite fighter. My favorite fighter, Rigondeaux, Floyd. I even like Pacquiao more than I like watching Golovkin, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
So definitely not. And you cannot speak for everybody because every boxing fan likes something else.
That is the point. Like I said in my video, that's the reason why you don't speak for everyone. It seems to me, guys, that this is the fighter that they want to be their hope. They desperately want this guy to be, the next big thing. And once again, you can't force someone to be great. They have to show it in the ring. Speaking of being great and instilling fear in other fighters, there was an article on Boxing News 24, and the headline it read, "Will fear deny Golovkin the chance to be an all-time great?" So, the assumption is everyone is afraid of Golovkin. But we all know that Golovkin already said that he's willing to fight at 154 or 168. And the guy that would seem to be the biggest matchup against him would be Andre Ward. If he couldn't get Cotto or Canelo in the ring, Andre Ward would seem to be the biggest fight for him. Why are people getting so upset that Andre Ward is even calling him out, Ego?
Some of it, I don't pull the race card when I don't have to. Some of it's race. Some people are just biased. Some people don't watch boxing. That's another thing. There's just a lot of ignorance in the sport where people they read comments and formulate their opinion. They don't know about Andre Ward getting Olympic gold medals, and they don't know anything. They just know what they read, and they kind of run with it because everyone else hates Andre Ward or says he's boring. They dish it out and say, oh, he's boring. So they don't respect it. Another thing, Andre Ward's been very inactive. I'm a Bay Area resident. Andre Ward's from the Bay. This is not a bias. I'm just being honest. Andre Ward's been inactive for different reasons. Injuries. He's been inactive doing the legal process, trying to separate from his promoter. So sometimes when you're not in the spotlight like that, people forget about you a bit. I've seen musical artists and they're on top, like Mariah Carey or whatnot. She disappears, has kids, and then no one's really calling for her. There's always going to be someone that kind of steals the spotlight, and I think that's why people aren't giving Andre Ward. I don't even remember him calling any HBO fights recently either, any big ones. So maybe Carl Froch, George Groves 2 was the last one that I really remember being a big one that he called. So people forget, but it just takes for him to get back in the ring and show what he's capable of, show what he's been doing, for people to respect it. I don't think it's blasphemous for Triple G to get those fights, and I also don't think he's the most avoided fighter in boxing, because if he's the most avoided fighter, then what is Keith Thurman? Because I think Keith Thurman, you look at his division, I don't really hear many people. Devin Alexander recently, I think Collazo said he was down to tango, but other than that, you don't see the Robert Guerreros. You got people turning down actual fights with them. And in the Triple G fight, Evan Laura called him out, and he's like, nah, he don't bring nothing to the table, and didn't want to fight. I've heard people call out Triple G and say they were down to fight, and it didn't happen for whatever reason.
Yeah, absolutely. He's definitely not the most feared fighter out there, or avoided fighter, I should say. Only person who was really avoiding him hardcore was Sergio Martinez. That's really the only fighter. But but what do you think about that, AK?
Yeah, well, to answer your first, to comment on your first comment when you said, Golovkin is their hope. Well, you got to feel bad for them, because Andre Ward is there to destroy their hope, which is Golovkin. Pacquiao, you got Floyd Mayweather there, and you got Donaire and Lomachenko. There was their hope at the lighter weight division, and you got Rigondeaux there. But so you kind of feel bad for them, in some ways. But as far as why people don't want to see Golovkin, versus Andre Ward, and why they got mad at Andre Ward for calling him out, because they're not ready to see Golovkin lose yet. That's basically what it is. I mean, you can't tell me it's not a big enough name. It's like, who Golovkin been fighting? I mean, let's be honest with it. When Lara called him out, they said, oh, well, he's not a name. And you've been, in the past couple fights, you've been fighting 154-pounders that we never heard of before. And if you're talking about Andre Ward, he said he's already willing to move to 168 pounds and fight Chavez or Froch. So why not Andre Ward? Andre Ward, his last fight got paid $2 million. Golovkin, his highest, I think the highest payday he got was $600,000.
Yeah.
So that's definitely, other than the Canelo and the Cotto fight, that's the biggest fight for Golovkin that could get made. So, I mean, if you're claiming that everybody's ducking you, and we know it's not true, why you don't go ahead and fight Andre Ward? But we already know he don't want no part of that. And I actually saw the interview of Golovkin. He said that Andre Ward is too much for him. Now, Golovkin does speak funny, and he be saying some things that I don't understand most of the time. But they basically meant to me like, I'm just not ready for Andre Ward. He's a better fighter than me.
Yeah.
And just to add on to what you said real quick, I just want to add something real quick to Arab's point. I think that's part of the problem with boxing. Like, so many fans want to call the shots, and fans want to act like promoters, like, oh, this fight doesn't make money, or Andre Ward's not a big draw, Triple G's not a big draw. What happened to just good old-fashioned competitive fights that need to happen? Because if you think about it, Arturo Gatti, at that point of his career, when he fought Mickey Ward, I don't know how big of a draw that particular fight was at the time, but it turned out to be a great fight, and we got great fights from it. So, I mean, I really don't want to hear all that, he's not a big draw, like, Canelo can't fight Laura, he's not a big draw, or this fight can't fight this fighter because it's not a big draw, because at the end of the day, who cares? It's about sport. It's about the competition. Who is the best? I want to know who's the best. We need to go, like, have an assembly line, and like just how they did the Super 6 tournament. I wish they did stuff like that more often, because it's more about that. Because we were able to see Andre Ward emerge victorious when they didn't think he was going to win in that Super 6. And he went through some pretty big names to get there. So I don't really care when people say, it doesn't make money. I mean, it makes money if we allow it to make money. All we have to do is tune in instead of making excuses.
But they're not sincere when they even say that, though, Ego. You know that it's a contradiction, because you got Golovkin. Who did he just fight? He just fought Geale. Now, so you telling me? So you telling me he could fight Geale, who's not a big name? He could fight the African guy. I don't even remember that dude's name, which tells you that wasn't a big
Adama.
Adama, yeah, he could fight these guys, right? That we've never even heard of. Oh, but when it comes to Andre Ward, he's not a big draw. And speaking of big draws, what about the numbers? What about the views that Golovkin just got for this fight against Geale? It's just been reported that he got the lowest numbers since January on HBO against Geale. I mean, are they just trying to really sell us something that's not there yet, or what, Ego?
Yeah, I mean, I really think they are. Just because, like I said, this is not a diss to Triple G. I like him. He's very entertaining. I like him as a fighter. But HBO, especially in recent years, they push an agenda. They want you to, like they were talking on the Triple G undercard in between the fights, they were talking about Chris Algieri and Manny Pacquiao, and they're trying to make it like this. It's a big, epic event. I talked to several people. A lot of people aren't really happy about that particular fight, but HBO let them tell it. They're going to say it's the best thing since the iPod. So I think they really just push their agenda. They need that superstar. Pacquiao's kind of at the twilight of his career. Golden Boy fighters aren't fighting on HBO, so they don't have really the charismatic, like Canelo can put asses in the seats. Adrian Broner has a loud mouth, so he has that showmanship quality where people love him or hate him. Because when Adrian Broner, made a video about this, but when Adrian Broner fought Gavin Reese, a person that a lot of people in the States don't even know who he was, it did 1.4 million views. Mm-hmm. And Triple G, who has the most title defenses and is supposed to be everybody's favorite fighter, it does abysmal views. So, I mean, I think that's just HBO trying to market in the best way they know how, but telling us is not the answer. You better, show us, put together good cards and good productions, good commentary, I think will increase their views as opposed to just telling us, oh, this is the best, you know what I mean?
Yeah, and real quick before I let you speak on that, AK, like you said, man, they have an agenda, and sometimes their agenda, it doesn't even matter if it's an agenda, to make more money for the network. Sometimes it's just a personal agenda to where they just want certain fighters to succeed even if they're not worth the money. I mean, think about the Guillermo Rigo situation. I was just, rewatching that fight last night, and I was just shaking my head thinking they didn't even have highlights of this fight on the broadcast, the HBO broadcast. But you had one guy on the undercard, I don't even remember his name, but you had this guy, he was nowhere near as big as Guillermo Rigo, so they aired his whole fight. Then they have, Zhou Shiming in the main event, and they don't even show highlights. To me, it looked like it was something way more personal, because that makes no sense to not even show the highlights. What do you think about that, AK?
I mean, exactly. I mean, when Rigondeaux, when he fought Becco for the main event, they didn't promote that fight at all, and it did 550,000, and that's still a good amount of views if you didn't promote the fight at all.
Yeah.
I mean, what you expect? I mean, Stevenson, like I said, when he fought on his last fight, when he fought on Showtime, he did 650. That's a 100,000 difference between Rigondeaux and Stevenson, and that's not. And Stevenson, let's not forget, he's a 175 pounder, and like I said, they're not promoting certain fighters, and they promoted Golovkin. So I'm actually shocked that it did that low amount. I thought it was going to do better than that. But, like I said, man, and they claim he's the hardcore boxing fan favorite fighter. So how come nobody's tuning in?
Yeah, and that's my whole point. That's my whole point. So if Golovkin really wanted to, he can fight against Andre Ward. Let me say this. I like Golovkin as well. I actually surprised a lot of people when I put him in my top 10 pound-for-pound list, because I do believe he is the best middleweight right now. He probably will beat someone like Peter Quillen and Sam Solomon and even Miguel Cotto. So he's one of the best fighters. The only problem I have is with HBO and what they say and how they treat one fighter as opposed to the other fighter. I mean, as far as I'm concerned, Guillermo Rigo, he should have been getting the same type of credit that they're giving Triple G, but he didn't, and that's the problem right there. So,
Yeah. I just want to add, I know y'all got YouTube channels, and for the last, couple weeks, people been telling me, why you criticize Golovkin for, saying he's ducking Andre Ward, but you don't say the same about Andre Ward. you know, because he clearly ducking Kovalev, and that's what people have been telling me.
Yeah.
I go ahead and respond to it. Let y'all respond to it too. But see, the difference between Ward and Golovkin, Ward doesn't contradict himself like Golovkin does. Golovkin said, "I'm willing to fight anybody from 164 to 168." You know, and he said he was gonna move up and fight Chavez, but that fight, didn't get made. But he also stated that I'm willing to move up and fight Froch. I'm willing to move up and fight Kessler. But when Andre Ward raised his hand and was like, "Can you fight me?" he says, "Absolutely not." So he's ducking him clearly. But Andre Ward, to his defense, Andre Ward, he never said, "Oh, I'm gonna move up and wait and fight Hopkins, but I don't want to fight Kovalev." He said, "I'm still at 168. There's still 168 fights that they still very huge. Like pay-per-view fights between him and Chavez, him and Golovkin, and they bigger than a Kovalev fight." So he said, "Once I get the big fights at 168, and I'm gonna move up to 175 pounds and challenge the champions there." But you never hear him contradict himself, saying, "Oh, I'm willing to move up the weight and fight Hopkins, but I don't want to fight Kovalev though." And it's like I think, to be honest with y'all, I think Andre Ward will beat Kovalev easy. He's not bringing nothing to the table that Andre Ward haven't seen. I mean, what? Just power? Andre Ward fought a lot of people with power. And let's not forget, Kovalev. I won't be surprised if in the future, if Andre Ward try to fight Kovalev, if Kovalev comes around and say, "Oh well, and he comes up, and duck Andre Ward because he already ducked Hopkins before, like a year or two ago. So if he ducked Hopkins, I know for sure he don't want no Andre Ward."
That's a good point.
I agree.
Go ahead, Again.
I was just going to say I agree with what you were saying, and then the Bernard Hopkins, Kovalev, I think he chose to fight cleverly, which is, again, not a world beater, and he didn't pursue the Hopkins route. And then the other thing I want to add real quick is Golovkin and Abel Sanchez, they're in a division that's it's kind of stale. I mean, you got a little bit of action, but not those big fights that are going to catapult Golovkin. He's already 31, 32 years old. You need that big fight for him, like the Miguel Cottos, the Canelos, a big name to really catapult him. He's kind of late. He's at a late point in his career for a boxer. You're 31, 32, which is boxing late. You got guys who are 21, 22 or younger making their way through the ranks. So he needs that big fight, and you can't say that I'm avoided, nobody wants to fight. That's like me saying I'm the best person at Madden. Nobody wants to see me in Madden. Nobody can beat me. And then Dante's like, "Hey, I'll get online. I'll play you in Madden." I'm like, "Nope, you can't. I don't want to play you."
Exactly.
Like, it doesn't make sense. Like, Laura called you out. Triple G would have fought Andre Ward if you don't have any competition and no one can take your power. I mean, do the natural thing and move up.
Yeah. And AK, you made a real good point when you said that what's his name, Kovalev, he wasn't in a hurry to fight Bernard Hopkins. Why would he be in a hurry to fight Andre Ward? How is it possible people are saying you won't fight Kovalev, you ducking Kovalev, and they haven't even seen Kovalev even call out Andre Ward? Another thing is this is what doesn't make sense. For everyone saying, you're calling out Golovkin, why don't you fight Kovalev? I got an idea. Why don't he fight both of them? Right? I mean, why won't he fight both? Why are you guys sitting over here saying, leave Golovkin alone and go pick on someone else? I mean, if you guys truly believe you're trying to make sense with this, then you would say you want to see Ward fight both of them. You won't say, I want him to fight just one of them, right? I mean, it doesn't make sense. And we know the truth. We all know what time it is. We know that they don't want to see Golovkin fight against Andre Ward because everyone knows that he will lose. I mean, it's the same situation with Leo Santa Cruz and Guillermo Rigo right now. The only difference is they're in the exact same division, and Leo has absolutely no excuse not to fight him. But, that doesn't make sense. If you're going to say he should fight Kovalev, you might as well just say he should fight both, so.
Yeah. And another thing is, like, you go to the zoo and then there's a lion behind a glass. You could do whatever you want. You could flip the lion off. You could do whatever you want. Everybody knows Andre Ward's current legal situation with his promoter, right? So they're using that like, oh, why doesn't he fight Kovalev? He's not fighting nobody because he's doing the legal process. Mikey Garcia is also going through a legal process. I don't hear people saying, oh, Mikey Garcia is ducking X, Y, and Z because they realize his situation. He's going through legal troubles with his promoter trying to get his contract voided. So, I mean, as far as saying, like, people use somebody else in order to try to make their point, but Andre Ward can't fight anybody. He can't fight Kovalev or whatever right this second. So it's just stupid. It's just a scapegoat.
That's all
I
it
mean,
is.
and then for the fans who say that, you know, they basically are already saying, you know, I don't want to see Andre beat Golovkin ass. You know, you could beat Kovalev, but leave Golovkin alone.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's basically, I mean, it's funny because Kovalev, like I said, I don't know if Kovalev have called out Andre before, but I never heard him say, oh, I want to fight Andre Ward next, you know, or something like that. And also, Andre Ward, he already stated before, once I move up, I'm going to fight everybody there. You know, so he didn't say, oh, I don't want to fight Kovalev. So he's just saying, I just want to take care of business, you know, 168, the Chavez and the Golovkins and all them guys, and the Froch rematch, if that ever take place, and then moves up the way and you know, fight those guys at 175 pounds. But like I said, you know, if you, I mean, it's funny because like you said, Dante, when Andre Ward called out Chavez, they said, why you calling out Chavez? Why you not calling out Golovkin? When he got called out Golovkin, they saying, oh, why you don't call out Kovalev? Why you calling out the little guy? And then when I guarantee you, probably in the future, if Andre Ward call out Kovalev, they're gonna say, "Oh, fight Stevenson. He's the Ring Magazine champ."
Yeah.
You know, and they won't have a problem with that fight because they don't care about who wins that fight. But I mean, it's crazy. But Golovkin could call out the little guys like Floyd Mayweather at welterweight, and he's willing to meet them at 154, and people don't have no problem with that. But when Andre Ward say, "You willing to move up and fight Chavez? Fight me?" Oh, nah, they have a problem with that.
Yeah, man. I mean, sometimes I feel like the double standards, they kind of mess up the sport. You know, I mean, you got a lot of people contradicting themselves. Remember, like Sergio Martinez, he was so loved when he was on top, but he was fighting bum after bum. I mean, let's face it. He was fighting European bums that were not on the level of top-notch fighters, right? So the whole thing was they were okay. They were okay for Sergio Martinez to fight this competition just so they could say he's still the best at the middleweight division, just like Donaire. Before Donaire fought against Guillermo Rigo, they were okay with him fighting the Matabulas. They were okay with him fighting old, washed-up, Jorge Arces. They were okay with that, right? But then you have someone like, Floyd Mayweather and other fighters, Andre Ward, right? And then when they want to call out the best fighters in the world, they got the nerve to be upset that they're even calling him out. So, the double standards really mess up the sport sometimes, But I want to
and I think I was going to say something real quick. I think not Andre Ward. I think boxing is one of those sports where it hurts you to be skilled. People always, Rigondeaux's boring, Andre Ward's boring. Klitschko fights very similar. Like, Klitschko fights very similar to Andre Ward. There's clinching involved and different things like that. And you look at other sports, you look at football, you get precision people like Tom Brady, you get people like Peyton Manning. They don't move all around out of pocket and scramble like the Russell Wilsons, the Cam Newtons, RG3s, Kaepernicks. They don't do that. That's not their style of play. But they do excel at being skilled. They can move the ball, they can throw a precision pass, and people are okay with that. But when it gets to boxing, if you're accurate, like Laura or Miguel Vasquez or Floyd Mayweather, Andre Ward, different fighters like that, for being skilled, you get outcasted. They're like, oh, he's boring, he sucks. I'd rather fall asleep and watch paint dry than to watch these fighters. And it's just a shame that boxing, they don't respect the different styles.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'll just say real quick. Go ahead.
Yeah, and also, I just want to add, that, I don't really hear a lot of people say, oh, Golovkin is cherry picking, but I keep hearing Floyd Mayweather, he keeps cherry picking his opponents, but Floyd Mayweather keep on fighting world champions, and Golovkin just fight, contenders and 154 pounders, and you never hear them say, oh, Golovkin is cherry picking, which is funny to me. But I just want to add, I called Cruz dad, Cruz dad said, that he's not gonna let he's not gonna let Cruz fight Rigondeaux, man. Yeah, what's your thoughts about that?
This is recent. He just recently said that.
No, I called his dad.
Oh, you said you called his dad, Leo Santa Cruz dad.
Yeah.
And he said recently that he's not going to let his son fight against Guillermo Rigo. That's what you're saying, right?
But I'm being sarcastic, man.
Oh man, no, because this is the whole thing, man. This is the whole thing. It wouldn't be a joke because it sounds realistic any damn way. I mean, his dad done already said that, number one. That's why when you said that, I was wondering, did he say it again? But yeah, man.
He didn't say it again.
I mean, well, the whole thing is now Leo Santa Cruz, and I was gonna get into that, but yeah, I mean, this is the whole thing. A minute ago, Leo Santa Cruz, he said, you know what, I'm willing to fight him anytime, any place, right? And that only lasted for damn near a day. Because then he turned right back around and said, well, you know what, give me about 2 or 3 more fights, and then I'll be ready for, to fight him. And, oh, by the way, it's not up to me anyway. It's up to the promoter. I mean, like I said, this is my whole thing. And people have to understand this. Fans think that we're being hard on fighters like Leo Santa Cruz, or we've been hard on fighters like Golovkin. But realistically, we're not being hard on the fighters. We're actually being hard on a lot of the fans that support them and contradict themselves. Because you're willing to say the same things about the fighters that you don't like. But then, like I always say, dumbass casual fans, they leave themselves wide open for counters. And this is when they get countered. You get countered now when it's your favorite fighter who has a guy chasing him. Now you're forced to defend, right? And you really can't defend it. There's no way you can defend Leo Santa Cruz, who's supposed to be this tough, warrior, who's supposed to have all this pride in the world, but you got somebody from Cuba chasing you around the world. And that's what it really comes down to. So, I think it's sad. Another thing is Guillermo Rigo, he came up with a great idea. He said, that they should fight on Floyd Mayweather's undercard, right? Guillermo Rigo versus Leo Santa Cruz on Mayweather versus Marcos Maidana's undercard. That would be a tremendous fight. Do you think that Leo Santa Cruz would ever fight against Guillermo Rigo, Ego?
Man, I hope, because I like Leo Santa Cruz. I like Rigondeaux. I think it's an interesting matchup. I would definitely favor Rigondeaux. Just the precision is disgusting. His accuracy, his speed. Rigondeaux, he just looks too cool. Like, I just don't see many people fucking with him. I hope it happens. I can't really speak on Santa Cruz if he will or won't, but I hope he happens. I hope he is as prideful and as much of a warrior as he said in past interviews and stuff like that. Because who else are you going to fight? You need. I think a lot of these fighters need that breakout performance. If Santa Cruz, who we all know is.
Hold up, Ego. You breaking up a little bit. You breaking up. Can you go over that last part again? You was breaking up real bad.
And to beat a Cuban certified Olympic gold medalist like Rigondeaux, that fight would put him on the map, and that's exactly what he needs. So, why not take the fight? That will, if you beat him, you're confident in your skills, that'll put you on the map, and that'll mean you have arrived if you can beat someone with Rigondeaux's pedigree.
Yeah.
Go
ahead, AK.
I think, Cruz, I think he's looking for an opponent for September. I'm not sure if he's going to be fighting on Floyd Mayweather undercard, but he's looking for an opponent. And I think it's to be announced. So Rigondeaux already suggests, he said, I'm willing to fight you in September on Floyd undercard. So why you don't fight him now? But he said, he want like 3 tune-up fights, basically saying I'm not ready to lose yet, But I'm not sure if that fight will ever take place because really Cruz looked very uninterested, and I know why, because Cruz throws too many punches for that fight to go 12 rounds. Because Rigondeaux is a power counter puncher, and Cruz leaves himself too open for that fight to go 12 rounds. And that's probably why he don't want the fight. And Chavez Sr. himself was on ESPN, and he said he wanted to see Cruz fight anybody. But when they brought a Rigondeaux name up, he said, no, I don't want to fight for Cruz. And then Chavez Sr. talking about Cruz.
Yeah. Yeah, we'll see. We'll see what happens in that situation. Okay, so we got 5 minutes left, guys. Now, let me go ahead and also talk about the Chavez versus Rios fight. Now, we're not even sure if this fight is actually going to take place now because Chavez is having some immigration issues right now, and they're trying to see if he could get back into the country. But if this fight does come to fruition, I want to know who you guys are picking. Go ahead, Nigo. Who are you picking in that fight?
You asked me?
Ego. Go ahead, Ego. Or it don't matter.
I would lean towards Diego Chavez. I like what he showed me in the Keith Thurman fight. He has pop. He seems like just overall the better boxer in terms of just fundamentals. You can't count Rios out because he's game. He can take punishment and keep coming, and he cuts off the ring nice, body punching nice. But I think him at a new weight division, him being on a long layoff after the Pacquiao whooping, I think that's going to hurt him, those things, long layoffs and stuff like that. I think Diego Chavez has fought since the Keith Thurman fight, so he's been more active, I guess you could say. Rios got suspended with the whatever Alex Ariza stuff in the Pacquiao fight. So inactivity, long layoff, I would definitely lean towards Diego Chavez. Just think he's a bit more technical. He showed he could take a punch from probably the most vicious puncher, one of the top 3 punchers at welterweight in Keith Thurman. So that's what I would definitely lean towards, put my money towards.
Yeah, I hope that fight don't get canceled, though, because, I'm really looking forward to seeing that fight. But, I got Chavez, but one thing that Chavez can't do is stay in the pocket with Rios and fight Rios' fight. He has to give Rios angles, because if he does, he will win there, very easy. But if he goes, he goes in there and goes toe-to-toe with Rios, Rios has the edge because that's his top of a fight, and he probably could break him down. But, Chavez still has a chance to knock him out in the inside because he really has a lot of power, man. Chavez, at 147, he has a lot of power. But like I said, if he gives him angles, with Chavez, I think I heard him on an interview say that he saw that movement gave Rios a lot of problems when he fought Abril, when he fought Alvarado, and also when he fought Pacquiao. So I'm thinking that he's going to be moving and giving, Rios angles. And if he does, if he's stepping into, just use his footwork, I think he's going to make it a very easy night for him.
Wow, that's surprising to hear that, actually. I didn't expect Chavez to go in there moving. I thought he was just going to come forward, and it was going to be a phone booth type fight. But I guess not. But, I'm definitely leaning towards Chavez. That's a fight that I was expected to go and watch live. So I just think overall better defense. I think his selection of punches is better. He's just a smarter fighter, and Brandon Rios is going to be hard for him to shake, that reputation of being a walking punching bag. So we'll see. We got 3 minutes left, but I wanted to go ahead and play matchmaker, Ego and AK. So we got Cotto, Golovkin, Canelo, Chavez, Froch. How should this all play out? If you could go ahead and set these fights up, how would you do it, Ego?
I'd pick Canelo versus Miguel Cotto. I mean, historically, Mexico versus Puerto Rico has given us wars, great fight. I think it's the fight that makes the most sense. They talk about Cotto versus Chavez Jr. Chavez Jr., that's a big size difference, and I don't know that Chavez Jr. can honestly make 160 like they say he can. Triple G, there's still other people you can match him with. Canelo hasn't fully moved up to 160, so I think Miguel Cotto's a smaller. I don't think he really belongs in middleweight, to be honest. I think he was able to capitalize on the Sergio Martinez situation, being injured, long layoff, and he did what he had to do. But I don't really see him. I think he would have problems even with Marco Antonio Rubio at middleweight, just because these guys are bigger, and if they have boxing skill and they can crack Triple G and fighters like that, I think they'll break Cotto down. They're just too big, and Cotto's a legend. I respect him. So I think sensibly and also lucrative, Canelo versus Cotto at 54. It just makes a lot of sense. Maybe even at 160, just because Canelo hasn't really fought at 160. But I don't really see Cotto having much success just staying at 160 with the top dogs.
Yeah.
I mean, I like Golovkin versus Canelo, and I mean, I would love to see that first. And also, I mean, I heard about Cotto versus Chavez Jr., like I said, but
and we got 1 minute left. Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm not sure if Chavez could make the weight versus Cotto at 160. Yeah, I mean, he can't eat no tacos at all. And he probably could make the weight, but I mean, I don't know how he's gonna make the weight. But I mean, if he can, I would love to see Cotto versus Chavez at 160. That would kind of be interesting because we saw Cotto versus Margarito. So I would like to see Golovkin versus Canelo and Cotto versus Chavez if he could make the weight.
Yeah, ain't no way Chavez making 160. He can't even make 168, so that ain't happening. Just real quick, I would like to see Cotto versus Canelo. That's the first fight I want to see, or Canelo versus Golovkin. Either one of those, I would be cool with that, all right? So we're going to go ahead and wrap it up, guys. I want to say thanks to my guests, Eagle Worlds. You can subscribe to him on YouTube, AK. A-Rap King, you can also subscribe to him. The best channels out there on YouTube. So go ahead, and we will see you guys next week. Remember, tune in and check out Box Fan Expo. Go to the website. Look at all the new guests that's going to be showing up at the Box Fan Expo. All right, guys. We'll see you next week. On to the next one.
Clark's my Nike. I'm feeling like life don't like me. Look at my environment, it's so unsightly. Looking for success, but that's so unlikely. Sell my soul for the gold, hell nah, too pricely. I meditate my mind on Irie. Hey, this how we do it on the day-to-day. This is a game, everybody gotta pay to play.